show, Stephen A raised some eyebrows when he said LeBron is not feared like MJ or Kobe. Listen to yourself.
LeBron James is too phenomenal and too great not to be incredibly respected. But in my estimation, from the people that I've spoken to covering the league, he's never been feared. A lot of times when we think about MJ, for example, and obviously he's the one person that draws those comparisons, what ultimately comes up short is the level of fear that was instilled in you. You didn't mess with MJ. You didn't come at MJ like that.
Okay. Big Perk is back here with us. JJ Redick was with us yesterday. He was not having it. Kendrick, do you agree with Stephen A that LeBron is not feared in the same way that Michael Jordan was?
Molly, look, I know Thanksgiving is tomorrow, and I was looking forward to eating my fried turkey, but I'm going to start it off early today. Yeah, I'm going to start it off early today and fry my own turkey. And and that turkey name is Stephen A. Smith. Because, look, let me say this, all right? Let me say this, Stephen A.
Disrespect, man.
You was tripping yesterday. And it's okay. We all have those moments. But when we talk about people being feared, no, you're right. No one feared LeBron James. No one feared LeBron James. Not the Boston Celtics, not the Dallas Mavericks, not nobody. Nobody feared Michael Jordan. Not Isaiah Thomas and the Bad Boys Pistons. Not Danny Ainge and the Phoenix Suns. Not Karl Malone, them and the Utah Jazz. Not your New York Knicks with Patrick Ewing, them who was hard fouling him and getting all up in his face and wanted to fight him. Not Charles Oakley, who he had to go get to come join him on the Chicago team. Now, I will say this to you. When we talk about players, and we got to go back into the history of things. Before guys got to the NBA, every guy, including every guy from the 15th man on the roster, used to be that dude. And whether it was in high school or college, that's why they got to this point. And I say that because you don't have fear when you're that dude, because trying to get to the NBA, you got to go against certain competition. You can't have fear. You got to beat the man in order to get to that level. Now, when you get to that level, yes, your role changed, but nobody is fearing nobody. And that includes Michael Jordan, that includes Kobe Bryant, God rest his soul, and that definitely includes LeBron James. But you still have to deal with the problems that they go cause when they get between those basketball lines. So when I look at the word fear, nobody is feared in the NBA and nobody was feared in the past, okay?
Well, first of all, a couple of things. Number one, and I'm being very, very serious here because I understand it's a delicate subject when you talk about something like that. I would tell you that I'm always going to defer to players. You played, I didn't. JJ Redick played, I didn't. Okay, so because of that, being in the NBA and having LeBron James as an opponent, I will openly confess, in all likelihood, you know more than I do. What I'm telling you is in all my years, 25 plus years covering the sport, that's not the impression we were given. And I need a correction, a modification rather, because when I was talking about Michael Jordan, I'm talking about Michael Jordan in the 90s. I'm not talking about Michael Jordan in the 80s that had to go up against the Boston Celtics and ultimately the Bad Boy Pistons. That's not who I'm talking about, because certainly there was no fear there whatsoever. They owned Michael Jordan's teams, for crying out loud. Michael Jordan became Michael Jordan because of what they put him through, which is something that he would openly admit to anybody. The Bill Cartwrights of the world and others would openly admit those things as well. But once Jordan had officially taken over the mantle, and once he had announced to the world there was a new sheriff in town, once he started winning those championships, there was a different aura that came along with him. You brought up Charles Oakley. When Charles Oakley first came into the league, he was with the Chicago Bulls. They actually moved Charles Oakley out of there to get Bill Cartwright and a few others up in there, okay? And they had a bunch of big-sized individuals in the middle for the Chicago Bulls, and obviously Oakley went to the Knicks and was the enforcer that protected Patrick Ewing from some nonsense. But when it came to MJ, in the 90s, there was just a level of fear, from what I was told, that he had instilled in opponents where you saw cats getting in his face, coming at folks and stuff like that. They wouldn't think about doing that with Jordan. I know a couple of times we saw Reggie Miller go at him. I know we saw Xavier McDaniel go nose to nose with him on the basketball court. But when you look at teammates, for example, some of the things that happened the first go around with LeBron in Cleveland, you know, with his teammates, other places that he went, the way that Kyrie Irving ultimately wanted to depart. The kind of things that we see Scottie Pippen doing now, nobody ever thought of doing then to Jordan. Because as he said, as folks admitted on The Last Dance, he was scary as hell. It wasn't just him as a basketball player, him being the individual that he was. What he would challenge you to do, what he held you accountable for, the manner in which he held you accountable was a bit different than LeBron, because LeBron was far more interested in being affable and friendly and personable than Jordan ever was. And I thought that Jordan articulated and explained it thoroughly in The Last Dance, because we had often wondered, because of so many stories that we had heard. We don't have time to get into it, but if you look at some of the elements and increments that you peel from The Last Dance, where he admitted how he was and why he was that way, and then you see Will Perdue and others speaking, B.J. Armstrong and others speaking to the level of intimidation that Jordan had basically implemented to teammates and opponents. That's where the difference that I'm talking about. That's something that LeBron hasn't had, that level of fear that he instilled in other people. That's all I was talking about. I certainly wasn't trying to imply that LeBron James wasn't as respected on the basketball court because of his greatness, because I know better. Go, Swaggle.
Go ahead, Perk.
Well, Stephen.
Either way.
Well, Stephen A. Hold on. Let me say this real quick.
Sure.
So when I look at the two, right, and I look at their personalities right now, and you look at Michael Jordan, Jordan didn't fool with people, right? Outside of basketball, he had a select group. He didn't fool with people.
Neither did Kobe.
Embrace people.
Neither did Kobe for the earlier part.
Right. Okay. Neither did Kobe. But LeBron James is different, and let me tell you why he's different. He's embracing people for the simple fact that he's showing people, he's embracing the younger generation, guys that's younger than him, because he's the guy that has already accomplished reaching $1 billion while playing the game of basketball. So all of a sudden, LeBron James has took it to new heights. And
Wait a minute,
he's taking guys under his. The reason he's so friendly, Stephen A., is because he's taking people under his wing to show them how to.
I'm saying that would explain.
Personalities.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying that would explain why I said what I said. I'm not disagreeing with you. It just could be a personality issue.
Okay.
I'm simply saying that explains why with LeBron, it was mad respect, but with Jordan, it was fear, because he was coming for you even if you were his teammate. Remember I told that story, Swagoo, years ago. He was in the elevator with Scottie Pippen. They had a playoff game with Scottie Pippen, clapping to his teammates, and he's like, come on, y'all, it's important tonight. Bring your A game. And Michael Jordan said, bring your A game. He said, MFers, bring A game. How about that? Bring A game. How about that?
Yeah.
That was Jordan. That's all I'm saying. Go ahead.
I mean, LeBron is in the mindset of
different personality.
I'm gonna put others on. And MJ wasn't on that mindset where he's not going to put others on. See, LeBron James is going to put his brothers in the same opportunities, walk his brothers through the same doors to have an opportunity to make the same type of money as he's making. MJ wasn't doing that. That's MJ personal thing. If he wanted, that's how he carried himself, that's on him. But what I'm saying is LeBron James embraces saying, you know what? Let me bring others into this and let them get some of this lettuce. You didn't get that from Jordan.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, to me, that's the difference. The difference is how you lead. I'd have made a lot of jokes about Matthew Dellavedova getting $50 million because he played with LeBron James. That's the way LeBron James has done his career for the majority of the time. Listen, you can make an argument that Jordan was more concerned about his personal vendettas and accolades